Hello students, welcome to the online lecture series of St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, Gurugram. Myself Satinder Vats, Assistant Professor in ETC Department. In today's presentation, we will see about registers, data transfer and DMA, which is a part of Unit 4th of LOC2 in BCA second semester. So in this presentation we will see that how different peripheral devices or input output devices communicate with the CPU and how the data transfer takes place from input or output devices to the CPU and then from CPU to input output devices. So for that we have first registers. So they are special memory units used to hold information on a temporary basis. Okay, so these registers are used to hold information or data temporarily. The instructions are interpreted and executed by the CPU. So these are used to hold these instructions and data temporarily. Registers are part of central processing unit and not of main memory. The length of a register, which is sometimes called its word size, is equal to the number of bit it can store. So every register would have some word size, that is the number of bit it can store in it. So some of the basic registers used in our CPU are program counter, that is, it is an incrementing counter that keeps track of the memory address of the instruction that is to be executed next. So it keeps the address of the memory location of the instruction that is to be executed after the current instruction, that is the instruction that is to be executed next, which is in queue. So in other words, it holds the address of the instruction to be executed after the current instruction. Second is the memory register, MAR. It holds the address of a memory block to be read from or written to. So it holds the address of the memory block in which we want to write the information or we want to fetch information from. Next is memory data register, that is MDR. It is a two-way register that holds data fetched from the memory or data waiting to be stored in memory. So it holds the data which we need to fetch from the data memory or which we want to store in the memory. It is also called a buffer register, as it holds the data in queue which need to be fetched from or which need to be saved in the memory. So it acts as a buffer for that data. Next is instruction register, a temporarily holding ground, that is, it is a temporary space for the instruction that has just been fetched from the memory. So whatever the instruction we have just fetched will be stored in the instruction register. Then is the control unit. It decodes the program instruction in the instruction register. So whatever the instructions we have in the instruction register, it will decode that program. Okay, selecting machine resources such as data source register and a particular arithmetic operation and coordinates activation of those resources. Next is arithmetic logical unit, that is ALU, which performs the mathematical and logical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc. So uh, it uses to perform these mathematical operations. Then the last is accumulator register, which holds the data to be operated upon, that is it holds the data which we need to operate it upon, or which we uh, need to perform our logical operations on and the results of these operations. So accumulator will hold the results, intermediate results and the final results of these logical operations which we are performing on the data. So next in this is the timing of all registers. These all registers which we have discussed, the timing of all these registers in a computer is controlled by a master clock generator. These clock pulses do not change the state of a register until enable control signal is not given. So until and unless we make the enable signal high, these control signals or our clock signal will not alter the state of any register. Types of control organization. So there are two major types of control organizations, that is hardwired controlled and microprogrammed controlled. So in hardwired control, the control logic is implemented with gates. So whatever the control logic is, it will be implemented using our gates, flip-flops and decoders. It has an advantage that it can be optimized. It has an advantage that it can be optimized to produce a fast mode of operation for any change. Wiring among the components is changed. Then second is microprogrammed control. The control information is stored in a control memory which initiate the required sequence of micro operations. For any change, microprogram is in a control memory is updated. So this is the basic diagram of the CPU, which consists of the main memory, that is RAM, random access memory, ROM, that is read-only memory, programmable read-only memory, and flash memory, which is a special case of EEPROM. It also consists of all these registers, that is program control register, instruction registers, general purpose registers, input output registers. So general purpose registers are uh, used for the basic logical operations, and it has accumulator register which holds the result of the logical operations, and a number of GPRs, that is general purpose registers. And this CPU will communicate with input output devices using controllers that we will see later in this presentation. So this is a basic block diagram of a CPU and how it consists of all the registers and memory elements. Okay, so next is data transfer, that is how the data is transferred between peripheral devices and the CPU. So the computer instructions can be classified into three categories for data transfer, that is data transfer instructions, data manipulation instructions, and program control instructions. So in data transfer instructions, it moves data from one place to another without changing the data content. That is, data is moved from one place to other without being any change in its content. Example, transfer between memory and process registers. So when we move data from memory to the registers, there will be no change in the content. So it is an example of data transfer instruction. Then next is data manipulation instructions. It performs operation on data and provide the computational capabilities for the computer. These are divided into three basic types, that is arithmetic instructions. So these data manipulation instructions are having three types, that is arithmetic instructions, logical and bit manipulation instruction, and shift instructions. So next data transfer mode is program control instructions. So they specify the condition for altering the content of the program counter. Program counter which has the information of the next memory location for the next instruction to be executed. It helps in branching of control. Now we have modes of transfer, that is there are three possible modes. First is programmed IO, that is programmed into input output transfer. So each data item transfer is initiated by an instruction in the program. So there would be a particular instruction which will initiate the data transfer. It requires constant monitoring of the peripheral by CPU. That is, we can have number of peripheral devices which may require to transfer data at the same time. So our CPU will monitor all of them. Once a data transfer is initiated, the CPU is required to monitor the interface to see when transfer can be made. So if a CPU is having data transfer with some peripheral devices, that it will watch the others peripheral devices as well, and it will monitor the interface when transfer with other peripherals can be made. So it keeps the processor busy in a program loop. Then the next mode of transfer is interrupt initiated input output transfer. That is, it issues an interrupt request signal when data are available from the device. So a interrupt request will be generated when the peripheral device is ready to transfer the data. In the meantime, CPU can execute other programs. So between the meantime, it can execute some other programs which increases the efficiency and the speed of the CPU. The interface monitors the device. When a device is ready to send data, interface generates an interrupt request. So interrupt request will be generated whenever the device is ready to transfer the data. The CPU stops processing task and branch to service input output transfer. So the CPU stops processing task and branch to service input output transfer. There are two methods of these interrupts, that is vector interrupts and non-vector interrupts. So in non-vector interrupt, so it is basically a request for data transfer. In non-vector interrupt, the branch address is assigned to a fixed location in a memory. So branch address is assigned to a fixed memory location. In a vectored interrupt, the source that interrupts supply the branch information to the computer. This information is called interrupt vector. Then the next method, that is the third one, is the DMA, that is direct memory access transfer method. In this, the interface transfer data in and out of the memory unit through memory bus. The CPU, so there will be a memory bus would be used for the interfacing. The CPU supply starting address and number of words to interface. When transfer is made, DMA, that is direct memory access request, memory cycles through memory bus. When request is granted by memory, so the interface would generate a DMA request, and when the grant is permitted from the memory controller, the DMA transfer the data directly into memory. So for DMA transfer there are two ways. First is cycle stealing and the second is burst mode. So in cycle stealing, it is used when quantity of data to be sent is small. That is, we need to transfer small piece of data, then it is the case of cycle stealing. Whereas in burst mode, we will require to transfer a large amount of data. The word stealing means two things. That is, first, it involves taking away something without the knowledge of owner. That is, and the second is, it involves replacing the knowledge without owner's awareness. So the stealing involves taking away something without the knowledge of owner. In case of memory, it is stealing the information from the memory without being acknowledged by the memory. So hence in cycle stealing, DMA, that is direct memory access, steals the bus cycle without the knowledge of CPU. So it will steal the bus cycle without the knowledge of CPU and gives back the buses before the CPU looks for the buses. So when the memory bus or the address bus is not in use, the DMA steals the bus cycle without the knowledge of CPU and gives it back before the CPU wants it. So it transfers one word at a time and need complex logic to do so. Hence, it is not used generally. The next mode is burst mode, which is used. So in this, the DMA controller requests the control of the buses. So it will request the CPU for the buses by sending a hold signal. If the CPU decides that the buses could be released to the DMA controller without losing speed of execution, then it sends a hold acknowledge. So the DMA will send a hold signal towards the CPU, and if CPU give permission, then it will send a hold acknowledge message to the DMA controller. After this, exchange of data will took place. So in this, prior request will be generated and only after the permission from the CPU the data transfer will take place. Whereas in the cycle stealing case, the DMA was transferring the data without the knowledge of CPU. So after complete transfer, the DMA controller hands over the buses to the CPU back. If CPU requires the buses in middle of transaction, it can take charge of the buses. So if in between the data transfer, while the data is transferring, if CPU requires the buses for some other peripheral devices, it can take charge of these buses as well. Hence it is used when large amount of data is to be transferred. So this is the basic DMA controller and how it would generate the signals to get the address bus. So there are RS signal, that means register select, DS is the DMA select, BG is the bus granted, so and BR is bus request. So DMA will make the bus request signal which will go to the CPU, and if the bus is that is the address bus or the data bus is idle, that is it is not in use, or CPU can give it for the transfer of data with some peripheral devices, that it will make it will provide a signal to the DMA controller, that is BG, that is bus is granted. So bus granted signal will come to DMA controller, and depending upon on this DMA request which it was getting from peripheral devices, the data transfer will take place. So what happens is that any peripheral devices or input output devices sends DMA request, that is direct memory access request, to the DMA controller. Then DMA controller request the CPU to get the data and address buses to get the data or instruction from memory. Only after the approval from CPU, the transfer with the peripheral device would take place. So these are the instructions, that is DMA select, RS register select, read write operations, bus request, bus granted, and interrupt signals. So this is our control logic, and how the data transfer, that is if it is getting a DMA request, that is control logic is it getting a DMA request from a input output devices. So then it will, using all these instruction, it will communicate with the CPU to get the data bus and address buses to initiate the transfer with input output devices. So here it is the DMA controller. So we have a DMA controller which will do all these controlling functions. So it is an interface to communicate with the CPU. DMA control with communicate with the CPU and as well as with the input output devices. So it is a bridge between the CPU and the input output devices. This DMA controller is act as a bridge between the CPU and input output device. So the unit communicates with the CPU via the data bus and control lines. Okay, the register in the DMA are selected by the CPU through the address bus by enabling DS, that is DMA select signal, and register select inputs. The read and write, that is RD and WR, the read and write inputs are bidirectional signals. When the BG bus grant input is 0, the CPU can communicate with the DMA registers through data bus to read from or write to the DMA registers. That is, if bus grant input is 0, the CPU can communicate with the DMA registers through data bus to read from and to write to the DMA registers. When BG, that is bus grant, is becomes high or 1, the CPU has relinquished the buses and DMA can communicate directly with the memory by specifying an address in the address bus and activating read or write control. So if BG becomes 1, that is bus grant becomes 1, the direct transfer between DMA and the address bus will take place, which activates the read and write control signals. The DMA communicates with the external peripheral devices with DMA requests. So the DMA controller would communicate with the external devices or peripheral devices with these signals, that is DMA request and DMA acknowledge. The DMA control has 3 registers. So it have 3 register: address register, the word count register, and the control register. As you can see, it has address register, word count register, and control register. So address register contains an address to specify location in the memory. The address bits go into the address bus buffer. The address register is incremented after each word is transferred to memory. So address register will keep on incrementing after each word is transferred to memory. Word register contains total number of words to be transferred. It contains total number of words, that is, it is stored the words to be transferred. It is decremented after each word has been transferred. So it will keep on decreasing. This counter will keep on decreasing after every word when the word transfers. Control register specify the mode of transfer. The DMA, that is direct memory access, is first initiated by the CPU, and after that the DMA. So first the DMA is initiated by the CPU, and only after that the DMA starts and continues to transfer data between memory and peripheral unit. So this DMA request must be granted from the CPU. Only after that the DMA will start the transfer of information or data with the peripheral devices. The CPU initializes the DMA by sending the following information: the starting address of the memory block. It will send these information, that is the memory block address, the word count, control to specify transfer mode, which transfer mode which will be used, signal to start the transfer, and then in last it will give a signal to start the DMA transfer. So the data transfer rate and the memory transfer rate is higher in DMA than the CPU. Hence DMA has priorities over CPU when both request for memory transfer. So if both of them are generating request for memory transfer, that is DMA and CPU, then DMA will have the higher priority as its speed of memory transfer is higher. So this is it in this presentation. Thank you very much.